Welcome to the channel, folks. I'm Chris. I'm here with Kyle and Greg from Heroes Beacon, and today we're going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth Magic the Gathering set, which is part of their Universes Beyond branding, where they're bringing different IPs into the world of Magic the Gathering. So we're just going to kind of do a primer, and we're going to go over as many things as we can about the set, which is about 2 weeks from coming out. June 16th is the release date, and of course we have a big pre-release at the store all weekend long. So let's start off with who's the set for? Who's the intended audience? Greg, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I really do think this is, again, one of those, it's for everyone sets. It is, some of the mechanics are a bit more advanced. They're not necessarily the most basic, so they are more advanced than, say, if you were to pick up one of the little intro packs, but they're not so difficult that most people wouldn't be able to within short-term grasp it. So it really is aimed at Lord of the Rings fans. The art is absolutely beautiful, and of course aimed at Magic players who've been playing for anywhere from a few weeks to several years.
Okay, so with that in mind, what formats do you guys think are the cards are going to best fit into? Kyle?
So, I mean, first and foremost, Commander is going to be the premier format. That's what they're building for, seems to be what they're building for the most. But there's certainly some more powerful cards in the mix. And I mean, it always takes time for that to shake out and really determine what those powerful cards are. But we're seeing onesies and twosie mana cards that are making waves, making people talk about them for formats like Modern, formats like Legacy. And I mean, the deeper the format, the more room there is for other things to kind of come in and be an outlier, something that we weren't really expecting to be powerful. So Commander is the first place, because we see that there's a lot of templating that talks about each opponent, and that's something that multiplayer Magic is, that's where its bread and butter is. But there is also definitely some stuff that's kind of littered through the set that I think is sleeping in there, that we're going to find power in the set over time.
Very cool.
Kyle, this is the first of the Universes Beyond sets that's Modern Pioneer playable, correct?
So this is not Pioneer playable, just Modern, Legacy, Vintage, Commander. But it is, this is the first time they've ever done a Universes Beyond set. So that's it. It's important that they don't go and make another Ragavan or another Hogak, because they can't have a set that isn't based in Magic's lore, Magic's reality, breaking the game, because it'll upset the player base.
Yeah,
the players are real delicate, and we don't want to make anyone too upset. So for their first foray into Universes Beyond, it's smart for them not to go and break any formats too hard. So hopefully there's nothing that's super crazy in there, but they have to also make it enticing for indoctrined players who've been playing for 25 years.
So in the Universes Beyond, just to be clear, this is the first Universes Beyond full set. Previously, they have done a Warhammer 40K that was introduced through 4 Commander decks, and down the road they have some products like Doctor Who that will be coming out. But again, that's just Commander decks. So this is really the first time they've taken Universes Beyond into a full-fledged set. And it'll be curious to see if it's successful enough to maybe try it again down the road with another IP. Greg, you mentioned that the art is beautiful. I mean, that's pretty much every Magic set these days. The art is always gorgeous, but I'm noticing just a massive amount of different borders, different arts. I've even seen some art cards that seem to connect to make a bigger picture. What can you tell us about what we can expect in those different types of arts and alt arts?
So for the art for this set, I honestly find it a little next level. It is even some of the more basic cards are absolutely stunning. But we do have a number of different treatments because you have, the usual vanilla Magic cards with now the universes beyond frames. But we've also got the showcase frames, which portray the art in a ring. And the art itself is supposed to portray the character's internal struggles on the quest, and a lot of that art is kind of dark, and again, it sort of looks like doubt or the burden placed on the character. So it's really neat in that respect and how it ties to the story. You have your extended arts, which have been done before, where the art goes all the way out to the edges of the card. A lot of those are very pretty. But on top of the extended art, as you mentioned, there's now the connected art cards where multiple cards connect into to a larger piece. Some of them are, 3 cards wide, but we do have some that are like 4x4, and the largest is a 6x3. So you've got 18 cards that are all connected to form one giant art piece, which is going to really encourage a lot of people to try to collect and complete some of these full art sets. And again, some of the cards have both an extended art and a connected art piece. So you could find some really beautiful treatments of each. On top of that, we've got the serialized cards. So those are mostly the rings of power are serialized. We'll talk a bit more about those later. So that's something that's been done for the last couple of sets, where you'll find cards with 1 of 500, and each one will be numbered. So it gives them a bit more of a unique feel. We do have our box toppers. So a lot of those are cards that have been staples in Commander that are given the Lord of the Rings treatment. So they'll have a different name, but the Great Henge is one that's been reprinted. So it has Lord of the Rings style artwork, which is really stunning, and it's called by a different name. I'm just trying to see if I can find it real quick, and of course I can't real quick.
The party
tree. Yeah. So it's absolutely
Okay.
stunning. So that's another really beautiful piece of art. And then on top of that, you've got the Elvish script treatments for the rings. We've got the different Sol rings that are quite nice. And then we have the Nazgul is another one I sort of want to throw in that there is a card, the Nazgul. You could have 9 of them in your deck, and there are 9 different art treatments. So if you wanted to, you could have 9 unique Nazgul cards in your deck, which I think is really cool.
So they seem to be really heavily leaning into the theme of Lord of the Rings with the art on this set. So you'd mentioned serialized cards. So from my understanding, there are 300 serialized Elven rings and 600 serialized Dwarven rings, 900 serialized human rings. What about the One Ring? Kyle?
It exists. Wizard says it exists, so therefore it must exist. It is out there to be found. The One Ring they printed, this is the first time they've ever done it. We've got serialized cards in the past. Greg's opened one. I was there for it. We did the box opening. It exists on the YouTubes. But so the One Ring is coming. There's a headhunter that's put out a bounty for it on the internet. So it is a singular one-time print card. It's one of one. There is no other like it. So the One Ring is its own card. It does what it does. 4 mana legendary artifact, comes in, draws you a bunch of cards, draws you a bunch of cards, and otherwise there's going to be lots of them in availability. There's going to be all kinds of them, but this one ring is going to be worth so much money, and it's only going to be available in collector boosters, and there's only going to be one in the world.
So just collector boosters. I can't luck into it in a draft booster or a set booster.
No,
All
collector
right.
only.
All right. So good reason to maybe pick one up and play the lottery, so to speak.
You could be the one.
So every new Magic set, we get new mechanics or mechanics that are kind of redone, I guess. What are we looking at for new mechanics in Lord of the Rings, Greg?
So I don't think there's anything strictly new. And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong. I do know that there's a different treatment to the amass mechanic that appeared before. So amass is a fun mechanic from back in the Amonkhet block, where the card would say like amass 1 or amass 2, and what that would be is you would create an army token if you didn't already have one. And then you would put counters on that based on what the amass value is. So if it's amass 1, well, you put 2 counters on an army token. And
zombie army.
Yeah, zombie army. Well, in Lord of the Rings, your army is an orc army. So you get to amass an army of orcs. So it's a single card, but it represents your orc army, which will grow over time unless something is done to it. So that's kind of fun. There's a lot of legendary cards in this set, so we do see a lot of cards that care about legendary cards, interact
Like
with other
cycle.
legendary cards. Yep. So yeah, so the lands will come in untapped if you have a legendary creature. There are cards that will allow you to bring back legendary creatures. There's a Samwise card that you can sacrifice food to bring back legendary creatures to your hand, which is fantastic. Yeah, you'll see a lot of food with the hobbits and the green and white colors. Which is really fun because food was a really interesting mechanic, but never really pushed further. So it's nice to see more cards that will give you more payoffs for food. Second
Saga
spell
support.
each turn. What's that?
Saga support as well.
Yeah, lots of sagas again, and a commander that cares very much about sagas that we're going to talk about. A lot of second spell each turn types of cards, second draw each turn types of cards. A heavy equipment focus, because Lord of the Rings, what's Lord of the Rings without your shiny magical weapons? So a lot of those. I think those are the big ones off the top of my head. Yeah.
So Kyle, we've got a whole new sort of mechanic coming in called the Ring. So how does the Ring affect the game?
So effects like this traditionally in Magic's history have been broken. So really curious to see how this one's going to go. And by that, I'm talking about effects like taking the initiative and effects like the monarchy. So these are effects that are added to a game. Now, this is kind of different because it affects only you. So the monarchy is a multiplayer effect, and these are in a lot of ways going to be very political. The Ring is a political thing, but the tempting, it only happens to you. So it's kind of like they're trying to take a mechanic that used to be sort of a multiplayer mechanic and give it like a single, like a 1v1 spin. It's hard to evaluate this one. It's all going to depend on how good the cards around it in the set are. And there are some really great ones. Specifically Call of the Ring is the one that I would say is making a lot of waves. It's a black enchantment. But the Ring, really, the power of it remains to be seen, because it is going to be legal in Modern, and there could be a Ring deck in Modern. A tempt deck. We really don't know at this point.
So
Greg,
at this point, it is a card that's legal. It's not just going to see kitchen table Magic. It's going to be usable in official formats.
So
for now.
Absolutely, being tempted by the Ring and getting this emblem and then working through the tempt and getting it more powerful, that's going to be something you can do in multiple formats. The question is always going to be whether it's something that's strong enough to play in Constructed, outside of Commander. In Commander, this is going to be great. Tempting your commander with the Ring, he's going to love that. But whether it sees play in our Modern formats where there's a very small margin for what's good and what's not, that remains to be seen, and it remains to be seen.
Yeah. Can you walk us through how the tempting mechanic works a little bit?
Absolutely. So the first time you become tempted, you gain the ring, and it's basically an emblem that says you choose a ring bearer, and it's a creature you control, and your ring bearer becomes a legendary creature if it wasn't already, and it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Then the next time you become tempted, so there are many ways that you can become tempted. The Call of the Ring, for instance, is a card that tempts you every turn. Whereas Samwise or Golem, they have enter the battlefield effects or different triggered abilities that will tempt you. So the first time they become legendary, they can't be blocked. Second time, your ring bearer, every time your ring bearer attacks, you draw a card and then discard a card. So looting, we all love that. Looter Scooter for the win. The next time is whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at the end of the combat. So it's got like a godsend sort of effect on it, or a Cauldron Complete sort of effect. It gets to block it all first. And then the last one is whenever your ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So that does have that each opponent templating. So that one, like once your commander gets tempted 4 times, it's going to be, it's going to be a very scary threat on the board, because it's not going to be able to be blocked by many things. Things that do block it are going to have to be killed at the end of combat. You're going to be looting, and you're going to be hitting each opponent with an extra lightning bolt every turn. So it's going to close out games very quickly. So if this is good enough for 60 card constructed, it will be closing out games. If you're swinging in with a 6/6 that's dealing 9 damage, it gets real and 20 life points real fast. Count to 20 quick that way.
For sure. So in addition to, we have draft boosters, set boosters, collector boosters. We have bundles and gift bundles, and then we have 4 new commander decks as well. So what are our 4 commander decks, and what are some of the cards we can expect to see in those decks? Greg?
So the full reveal on the commander decks hasn't been done yet, but what we do know is the general theme of each of them. So one of them is Riders of Rohan. It's white, blue, and red. So it's a Jeskai deck, and it seems to be a Jeskai humans deck. So the commander is Eowyn Shield Maiden. It's a 5/4 first striker. Beginning of combat on your turn, if another human entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2 red knight creature tokens with trample and haste. If you control 6 or more humans, draw a card. So this is has a potential to really go wide quickly. It stacks well with anything that gives you multiple attacks. Red has a number of spells that'll give you multiple combat phases. So it'll be interesting to see what that deck contains, but the guess is you're going to be looking at a lot of humans and possibly a lot of knights. And knights have received a lot of good support over the last little while. And so certainly finding human knights for that deck wouldn't be very hard. The other one is Food and Fellowship. So I was talking about food and the hobbits. And this seems to be very much geared around life gain. And it has 2 commanders. It's got the partner commanders of Frodo and Samwise, where Frodo has partners with Sam, loyal attendant. He's got vigilance, and whenever he attacks, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, the ring tempts you. So there's the ring mechanic. Then if Frodo is your ring bearer and has tempted you 2 or more times this game, draw a card. So on top of getting all of these extra powers from the ring, he's going to be drawing you cards. And he's a 1/3, so that first ring ability where he can't be blocked by creatures of greater power comes in really handy with them. And Samwise is the food half of the equation, which sort of makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Let's see if I can track him down here, because I don't know. Yes, so Sam, loyal attendant. He has at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a food token. And then normally food is you pay 2 and tap it to gain 3 life. Well, he allows you to pay 1 and tap it to gain the life.
Oh.
So sorry, tap and sack.
Yeah.
So he lets you use food more cheaply. And food is, again, gain 3 life. So if Frodo wants to gain 3 life to trigger his abilities, and Sam's like, well, here's some food, have at it. They'll work really well together.
Cool.
The third deck is Elven Council, with Galadriel, the Elven Queen, as the commander. It's a blue-green deck, so it's doing the Simic thing with +1/+1 counters. So it's 2 green blue for a 4/5, and it has Will of the Council. And Will of the Council is a really fun commander mechanic where you vote. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, if another elf entered the battlefield under your control this turn, starting with you, each player votes for Dominion or Guidance. If Dominion gets more votes, the ring tempts you, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on your ring bearer. If Guidance gets more votes or the vote is tied, you draw a card. So you're either going to get a creature that is growing, getting bigger, and a more powerful ring each turn, or you get a card. So you're either going to get some upside or some upside. The last one is, of course, you have to have the bad guys. So we've got Sauron leading the hosts of Mordor. So it is green, black, and red. And I can only assume this is going to be a lot of like orcs and that amass your army kind of thing. And Sauron is 5 blue, black, red. So he is quite an expensive commander, but you get a 9/9 avatar horror creature out of it. And when you cast him, you amass orcs 5, so you get a 5/5 army if you don't have an army already. You mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So not only do you have your 9/9 Sauron, a minimum 5/5 army of orcs, you can also get another creature, which could be anything, onto the battlefield. And then Sauron has trample, and whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. So it's another, nice thematic card where, again, you're going to be looking at building Sauron's army with your orcs and rising up your minions. So it should be a lot of fun.
Very
Super
cool.
cool.
All of those sound exciting. So we talked a little bit about reprints, so cards that have existed in Magic before that come back with maybe a new name and a new art treatment. Kyle, what are we seeing for reprints that are that people are going to be looking forward to, or maybe we haven't seen in a while, or maybe we see every time they put out a commander?
We're super excited. This section of this set is exceptional. So these are the box toppers. So there's only going to be one of these in a box. I did, in fact, get confirmation that there's going to be one in in set, draft, and collector booster boxes, which is really exciting. So these are highly anticipated, highly sought after commander reprints. And I'm saying commander at this point because that's what I'm seeing. They aren't all spoiled yet. So fingers crossed that we get some really high-powered modern reprints in there as well. But right now we're seeing cards like Ancient Tomb as Balin's Tomb. We're seeing Beseju, who shelters all, which is multi-format all-star, as Isengard. We've got Cavern of Souls being reprinted, which is great in any format, as Path of the Dead. Commander All-Star Cloudstone Curio is the LSR, the Elfstone. Just hit after hit after hit. And there's cards that some that have never been reprinted ever before, like which was the one Deserted Temple, never been reprinted before, so that's being reprinted as Weathertop. And things like Homeward Path, which commander players have been asking for a reprint for the last 5 years. So it's really exciting. This section is super exciting. The only issue is there's not one in every pack. So you will have a chance to get the non-foil versions of them in your collector boosters. And there'll also be box toppers in every single box. There'll be one in the top of every box. But the list of these is worth going through because there's at least a card on there for every player who's been looking for a new version of that card.
So we've got one reprint that you're guaranteed to be able to get as your buy a box promo. I think Greg may have just been about to jump in with.
Yeah, so the Lorien brooch is the box topper promo, and it's a reprint of Trailblazers Boots, which is a heavily underplayed commander card that a lot of people sleep on. It gives equipped creature non-basic land walk, and people in commander love their non-basic lands, so being able to swing at someone with an unblockable commander is something you're going to want to do. And it is a beautiful treatment of that card and a worthwhile
I'm looking
reprint.
at the art now, and it is just insane. It is gorgeous. I think that covers pretty much the gambit of what we can expect to find, how things are going to work, what they're going to look like. What are you guys most looking forward to? What are a couple of cards that really, or mechanics or whatever that you just can't wait to get on the table? Kyle, you want to start us off?
It's funny. Whenever a new set comes out, it always comes down to sitting down and actually trying these cards out at the pre-release. That's where I really discover the cards. So I pushed myself a little bit to see if I could find some goodies in this set that I'm really excited about. Kind of before, because I normally see the cards and then let the action determine. But I'm excited about Mount Doom. That card is so cool. It's a legendary land, comes into play untapped. You can pay a life for either a black or a red. So it's a little painful, but it's got a ping ability on it that hits each opponent, which is super cool. And it's got a wrath on it. Any land that's got a Wrath of God effect on it, it means that you are not putting a bad sorcery in your deck. You're putting a land in your deck that taps for mana, and then when you need it to, it also blows up everything that you don't care about. It's beautiful. So I'm super excited about that one. And Gandalf the White is a new Panharmonicon. He's got some restrictions, but he's also got Flash, and I love me some Flash.
Very cool. Greg, anything for you?
So I've got one card that I'm very terrified of, and it's a common.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So this card is going to be making some noise, I think. And I think, Kyle, you would probably agree. And that's Mechwood Bats. So Mechwood Bats deals a damage to each opponent when a token is created or when a token leaves the battlefield. So and treasure in commander is a big thing, so it's like, oh well, I make a pile of treasure. Well, now you're going to take a pile of damage because I made a pile of treasure. Now I'm going to use my treasure to cast something. Oh, you're taking a pile of damage because I'm using all my pile of treasure. So it works well with food. Eat your food, deal some damage. Treasure, make some treasure, deal some damage. Use your treasure, deal some damage. Clues, or just creature tokens. Like I can make a pile of creature tokens. Oh, you board wipe them? Well, first of all, you're taking them on the way in. You're going to take some damage on the way out too. So I think it's going to be an all-star, and at common, it's going to see a lot of play.
There's actually a couple guys at the store the other day talking about that exact card. So I think you're right. I think as a common, it's going to be everywhere.
Rakdos players are going to be in their glory. Yep.
We've got a few like real all-star lower rarity cards. Peregrine Took is going to see play in Commander all the time, where you get an extra food whenever you create. Academy Manufacturer and Peregrine Took nonsense is going to be ridiculous. I don't even want to think about figuring out the math on that. And Reprieve is going to be a modern card immediately.
Yep. Yeah, that's another fantastic, removal spell that I think is going to see a lot of play.
Updated and remand.
The other, I was thinking, what was the white one? The white 1-mana removal spell. But yeah, no, definitely, like people really do need to pay attention to the commons and uncommons in the set, because there is more power, I think, in some of those cards than in some of the higher rarity cards. And I think they deserve a lot of attention. The other one I'm really excited about, because it speaks to my black heart, is Witch King of Angmar is would be my other pick for cards I'm super excited about. So it's 3 and 2 black for a 5/3 flyer, which I'm already happy about that rate. But whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, each opponent sacrifices a creature that dealt combat damage to you this turn, and the ring tempts you. So again, getting that ring tempts you trigger, and you're really discouraging people from attacking you. And now you can discard a card and give the Witch King of Angmar indestructible until end of turn and tap it. So you have some built-in protection as well. Where with the Witch King is going to be a lot of fun is in decks that want to really play with the monarchy, decks that really want to lean heavily on the adventure mechanics, because you're discouraging people from attacking you. You're like, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wear this little monarch crown on my head. You can come and try to take it, but if you do, not only am I going to block some stuff and likely kill it, but anything that does get through, you're going to have to sacrifice one of your creatures. So it really does penalize people from trying to take the monarchy from you, or trying to get that adventure from you. So I think it's going to make for a lot of fun play for us evil black souls who can't
Awesome.
Not put black cards in our decks.
Is that the first commander deck you're building into the set?
I might actually. I'd like to. I'm actually tempted to just go and build the Marchesa deck I've been wanting to build forever, and slot him right in there, and put a little crown on my head and say, "Come and get it."
Well, that's awesome. I want to thank you guys for joining me today to go over this and kind of enlightening me. I haven't played Magic in a long time, but as a big fan of Lord of the Rings, this has tempted me to come back. Yeah, Greg?
Before we get too far, pre-release.
Yes.
If you come to pre-release, one of the cards you get your foil dated stamped promo card, and you get a full art card that you can only get in pre-release for one of those multi-art pieces. Yes.
Okay, yes.
So one set of those multi-art cards is only available in the pre-release packs, from what I understand. So
okay,
keep that in mind.
That's good to know.
Oh, my
reason to go to
wallet.
pre-release.
Another good reason to come out for pre-release. We have them June 16th, which is Friday night. First one's at 6 o'clock, and then we've got 2 on Saturday, noon and 5, I believe, Kyle.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and they're always they're always the most fun event.
So much
kicking
fun.
off a new set, getting to see the cards, seeing how they actually interact. It's always a good time. So I highly recommend people come out and join us for that. We also have all of the products available on our website for pre-order right now. And a lot of them are at pre-order prices, so you can save a little bit of money by getting in there now. And maybe down the road, we'll do a follow-up and maybe do a box opening of a set booster box. And you can join us to see what one of us gets out of that. So we hope to see you on June 16th, and have a good day.